What is going on, Mountaineer Nation, fellow college football fans? It's National Signing Day 2022 for the 2023 class. Very excited about the class West Virginia was able to sign today. Had a couple guys that flipped at the last minute, but I'm really happy with the guys we got on board. Some really talented guys in this class, and one of those guys is with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, he can only join us for a couple quick minutes, but I want to real quick bring on one of the guys who's signed his name on the dotted lines today for the Mountaineers, Mr. Torrey Johnson Jr., otherwise known as TJ Johnson. How you doing, TJ?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Hey, do you go by TJ or
yes,
Torrey? What do you prefer?
I mean, it really doesn't matter too much.
All right. Well, real quick, man, first off, we want to welcome you to Mountaineer Nation. My name is Couz. My real name is Justin, but I go by Couz here. This is on my channel, Couz's Corner. I'm here with Mountaineer Paul. I know you've been corresponding with a little bit, and our good friend Travis.
Mm-hmm. How's it going?
Okay, it's going pretty good.
Good to hear.
So really appreciate you coming on, man.
Absolutely, man. This is a pleasure.
No problem.
We are extremely excited to have you as part of Mountaineer Nation, man. Just real quick, how's it feel to finally have this behind you and have your name signed on the dotted line?
Yeah, it's a pretty big relief now that all the recruiting stuff. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Where all did you get to go out and visit? Did you visit very many places?
Oh yeah, I visited quite a few places. Yeah.
I always like to ask. I asked Zachariah Keith this. Where does WVU's facilities stack up to other places you saw throughout?
You said what? You kind of broke up on that.
Where does the WVU facilities stack up with other places you saw around the country?
The only place that I can say, guys, facilities that competes with WVU is Georgia that I've been to.
That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear.
That's great. That's great.
Yes, sir.
Travis, you got any questions for Torrey?
Nah, I assume, Torrey, you're pretty excited and happy to be done with the recruitment process and move on to the next stage. What's next for you?
Just get enrolled in January.
Oh, you're okay. So that's
yes,
that's just a couple weeks from now.
Yeah.
We heard in the press conference, Neal said that he wanted you to get up to about 230. Do you feel like that's an ideal playing weight for you? And also, I thought it was pretty cool. He said you were going to split out, be a receiver / tight end. And watching your tape, you are a nimble cat for somebody the size you are.
Yeah.
You've got to have some kind of background because you've got such good feet and your hips are so good. What did you do to make you such a nimble guy to be so big?
I mean, I've always been a receiver, and it's just the amount of work that I put in practice and outside of practice.
Jordan? We have Jordan Couz on here with us too, Torrey. He has his own podcast as well called Country Roads Webcast. And by the way, Travis, I forgot to tell you, he's a writer for Last Word on College Football. But Jordan, do you have any questions for Torrey?
Well, hopefully I'm not repeating anything anyone else asked before, but I just wanted to ask you if because something I always talk about is, in-state players and in-state players. I feel like playing, for West Virginia is more to them. So, I mean, you being a legacy player, does that feel like following, a place where your dad played means more to you going to West Virginia and you feel like you go harder at West Virginia because of that fact? And is that one of the reasons that you chose West Virginia?
Yeah, it definitely plays a part. I mean, I grew up watching West Virginia football pretty much all my life.
What player did you cheer for, Torrey? Who was your favorite West Virginia player?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Who was your favorite West Virginia player?
It had to be Tavon Austin. It had to be Tavon Austin.
I had a feeling that would be your answer, man.
Tavon Austin.
Yeah, we love Tavon Austin, man. What did you love about his game?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I said Tavon Austin. Tavon Austin, yeah.
Yeah, what was your favorite? That we had a feeling that would be your answer. That seems to be everybody's answer in your generation. Heck, it's everybody's answer in my generation, I think. What did you like about Tavon's game, man?
You're kind of breaking up. Hello?
Can you hear? Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
We just let him go.
Yeah. Well, listen, Tori, I don't want to hold you up anymore, man.
Hello?
It was a pleasure to have you on. I'll let you get back to whatever it is you were doing, man. It was great to speak with you, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again when you have more time.
All right.
Hey, good night, man.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Take care. God bless you.
All right. Nope. Thank you.
There was a big delay going on there.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It must have been on
Yeah,
his
yeah,
end.
I hear you good. I hear you good.
I think I might want to take a little bit of fault for that. I told him where to find you. I wonder if he had the show on while he was also trying to possibly.
It's all right.
Maybe it was causing some kind of feedback issue or something.
I don't know. No worries. We gave it a shot. And I mean, we were able to get a few answers out of him, and he was short on time anyway.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
He was. You know where he was coming from?
the gym.
The gym. Yeah. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Especially if he's got to get up to 2:30.
Yeah.
Hey, while we're talking about players, I was able to talk with Jaheim White for a little while today, and also with Tori and a couple other guys, and had some stuff we're going to filter in throughout the show that they had to say to Mountaineer Nation. I'll let Couz, you just cue me in whenever you want to hear
Yeah, that's cool, man.
a cool thing or whatever.
When we get to those specific players,
Nice.
we'll touch on it. First, let's just dig in. First of all, I'm just going to read a list real quick for all those who are watching and listening of the guys that West Virginia signed today. Well, I was going to, but I lost my when I had it. Yeah. Do one of you have that list handy?
Yeah.
Before we had the technical difficulty earlier, I lost my list, but I'm pulling it up now though, so no worries.
Oh, okay.
I've got it right here too if you need it.
Okay. All right, here we go. We were ranked, according to 24/7 Sports, we have the 41st overall ranked class, actually 39th in composite. It's actually dropped a little bit just in the last few minutes, like one spot. But and we are, I've got us at 7th in the Big 12, according to 24/7. On 3 has us as the number 42 class, and Rivals has us as a number 37 class.
That's a huge drop.
8th and 7th in the Big 12, accordingly. Well, I mean, I think losing Justin Benton hurt our ranking. McIntyre was a pretty highly ranked kid too, and he's not signed yet. Don't think he's going to, based on what Neal said today in his press conference. I don't know if you guys picked up on it or not, but he said that anybody who was not signed today will not be signing.
Yeah. So, yeah, sounds like that they're pretty much just going to use this only for high school players. So anyone else is going to be, JUCO or transfer probably.
Yep. He said they plan on bringing 8 to 12 players in on transfers. So,
who did you say was the other person that didn't sign?
Was it Corey McIntyre? His last name's McIntyre.
The defensive lineman?
Yes.
Yeah, well, no, St. Jean is the defensive lineman, and he didn't sign either.
McIntyre is the son of the fullback that played for West Virginia, right?
Yeah, Corey McIntyre Jr.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
from
right.
South Carolina.
St. Jean is an offensive lineman. That's right.
Yes, he is. McIntyre is a D lineman from South Carolina, right? Yeah.
Now, I don't know if did he specify today they had to sign or just during this signing period?
He said, I think that what he said was that they just weren't waiting until like February. So I guess, I mean, it could still be like during as long as it's within the next little window, probably. But he said they weren't waiting to sign high school kids in February. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought he said. I don't want to misspeak and say it had to be today necessarily, but what this early signing period, if once the early signing period ends, if they haven't signed, then they won't be signing with us. But both of those guys were 3-star recruits. McIntyre's a 3-star, 0.8517 rating, and St. John or St. Jean is a 0.850. So they're not, their numbers aren't extremely high as far as ratings go, but a lot of these rankings are based on the number of guys you sign too. It's not just based on the rating of the guys. So sometimes it's a little misleading in my opinion, but definitely not as high as we were all expecting. But I don't want to focus on the negatives. I want to focus on the guys we got. Obviously, Rodney Gallagher is a consensus 4-star guy on all services. He's an ESPN 300 recruit, 4-star, 0.9106 according to 24/7 Sports. Traylon Ray's a 4-star on most services. Another wide receiver, Josiah Trotter, a 3-star according to 24/7, 4-star according to many services. He's a linebacker out of St. Joe's Prep, and his dad actually was a star for the Philadelphia Eagles, so he's a big get.
His brother for Clemson.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is a star at Clemson right now, so he's got good genes. Josiah Jackson and Jordan Jackson, the twin defensive backs. James Hurd, who I'm really excited about, and he's a 4-star on some services. 24/7 has him as a 3, but he's going to be. Neal Brown said he would probably play day one. He's going to.
Well, he's better than every pass rusher we have right now.
Yeah,
he is.
Yeah, you could say that.
What do you guys think he's going to play? Bandit?
That's what he said.
Yeah. He might be the first true bandit that we have. In fact.
Yep.
Yes,
I like that.
Jaheim White, who I'm really excited about, just to add to that deep quarterback room. Zechariah Keith, the edge rusher that we mentioned earlier. Johnny Williams, the offensive tackle from Macon, Georgia, who Neal said takes up an entire doorway in his house.
Yeah, he's a big one.
Big. He's 6'7", 315 pounds.
That's what I like to see.
Yeah, it is. That's bigger than most offensive linemen West Virginia normally recruits. Orion Fisher, edge rusher out of Georgetown, Kentucky, a 3-star. Sean Boyle, the quarterback out of Charlotte, a 3-star. Torrey, who we just had online, is a 3-star out of Chesapeake, Virginia, a legacy recruit. His dad, Torrey Johnson Sr., played at West Virginia back in the early 2000s. Here's a guy that I think's going to be a superstar, and that's DJ Oliver, the running back out of Point St. Joe, Florida. The kid's 6 foot, 237-pound running back. Is number one in the state in the shot put and in the 100-yard dash or 100-meter dash. So, I mean, that's just uncanny that he's that fast.
Yeah, he runs right. He runs an 11, right around an 11.
Yeah, at 240 pounds.
Well, and West Virginia has 2 guys arguably now that are bigger backs but can also run, and 3 if you want to throw Jalen Anderson in there as well because he's 220 plus too. So.
Yeah, they got Jaheim White, who's quick twitch and shifty, to go along with Oliver. So I think it's a great combo. We got offensive
and ridiculous production.
Yep, offensive lineman Cooper Young out of Dowlington, Pennsylvania. Linebacker Ben Cutter, who I'm also excited about. I think he might be the next Nick Kwiatkowski type player.
Reed Williams.
Reed Williams, yeah. Out of Denver, North Carolina. Had over 500 tackles in his high school career. I mean, that is just unreal. Nick Cray, offensive lineman out of Pennsylvania. Noah Braham out of Morgantown High School. His dad was Rich Braham, the West Virginia Hall of Famer. This kid is listed as a tight end, but they said he might actually be able to play defense. He's so good. He's such a good athlete and so good on both sides of the ball. They don't even know where they're going to put him exactly yet. But he'll start out at tight end, they said. But anyway, and then, of course, we mentioned the 2 guys who haven't signed yet, Corey McIntyre Jr., the defensive lineman, and Christensen St. Jean, the offensive tackle. But, Travis, since you haven't said anything, man, what guy are you most excited about in this class?
I mean, it's hard to pick one. I like Trotter a lot. I like the mold that he comes from. I mean, dad played NFL for a decade. Brother played well at Clemson. And he's played well in his high school career. He's a 4-star by some services, not a composite 3 or not a composite 4, but he's 4 by some. Rodney Gallagher, of course, it's hard not to be excited for a kid of that caliber. And also a good story. I mean, I just remember when he's being recruited, seeing all the pictures of him when he was a young cat, just watching Pat White and company play, and grew up a Mountaineer fan and sort of calls it home now. It's sort of exciting to see. It's funny though, because our only 2 consensus 4-stars are wide receivers, and everybody sort of read between the lines of what Neal Brown said today, saying we're going to move to a mostly rushing offense with big sets, double tight ends, that sort of thing. And I'm like, well, but the 2 top guys we got are speedy wide receivers. We've got people who can catch the ball and make plays. So
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how the offense evolves, and I guess we won't fully know that until we know who the new offensive coordinator is going to be.
Right. But he also snuck a comment in there that they want to push the ball down the field more. So it's kind of harking back to me to the Skylar Howard days. It may look more like that, where we run the ball a lot, run, get them deep, right? Maybe that's what they're looking for. And I think, I'll be honest with you, after hearing JT Daniels, did y'all happen to catch the JT Daniels interview that he did with Ear Sports?
Yeah, I did. I read that just a little bit ago. Sounded like he was more or less asked to move on. So it sounded like they were ready for transition to a new style of offense.
Yep. So I think and then you look at Graham Harrell even, I'm thinking that maybe those guys were like, look, maybe Coach Brown was like, look, we're changing offensive styles. You guys are not a fit anymore. That's why I've been on social media. Look, I've been on the Fire Neal Brown train too, but I think it's time we move on from that and start focusing on the next season and trying to be positive. And everybody's, every time somebody leaves, everybody's like, oh, Brown's losing everybody. Well, we don't know for sure that he's not on board with them leaving. We need to stop jumping to conclusions and assuming they're all leaving on their own accord. They're finding it. They are getting, obviously Harrell had another job, but who's to say he wasn't asked to be looking for another job? You know what I mean? So I'm not that worried about it, I guess, for lack of a better answer. Wow. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I'm not that worried either. Yeah.
Everything that everybody said that West Virginia they wouldn't complain if Graham came back, but they also weren't sort of fighting for him to come back either. So that sounds to me like we're not going to say that we asked him to leave, but we kind of made it feel like that was the direction. But it's not like he took it's a lateral move to Purdue, and Purdue apparently wants to change their entire offensive scheme because Graham Harrell looks like the odd man out in terms of what the style of offense Purdue normally runs. So they may just be looking to change their entire philosophy.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if we sort of try to mimic, what some of the G5 schools have been doing with good success, sort of that air raid read option mix, sort of the next evolution of the triple option based on the personnel that we're bringing in. I mean, what do we have now? 5, 6 running backs? You don't have that many by accident.
Right.
And only 3 quarterbacks. Really?
Only 3.
Scholarship quarterbacks.
Yeah. We did get the kid that is Rodney Gallagher's high school quarterback, who I think is pretty good. He had some offers, but certainly not a high level, at least offer sheet.
Right.
I kind of thought Rodney Gallagher was his own.
I'm sorry. Jaheim White. It was Jaheim White's quarterback. I apologize.
Yeah.
No worries.
You set me up for the joke though, because I kind of think I kind of think of Rodney Gallagher as a guy who really could just toss it up to himself and run and catch it.
Yeah.
Big Dan T, by the way, thanks Big Dan T for being a channel member. He says, I think we got a good haul, guys. I hope they are dogs. Yeah, me too. And by the way, we were in a hurry to get Torrey on and get him off because he had a busy schedule, and I didn't introduce everybody. So Travis, go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you at, man.
Yeah, I'm Travis Kenobi. You can find me on Twitter just by my name. I didn't do anything creative there. It's on the screen, spelled just like that. I also write at Last Word on college football. I've taken a little bit of a hiatus over the last few months just because of all the negativity surrounding the program. I found myself writing things that I could not be objective about, and I really try to be the reasonable, objective voice in the room, and I couldn't do it. But I'll be back. I'll be back in time for next season.
Yeah, Travis, and by the way, that's one reason I have so much respect for you, man.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you do things the right way, man. Paul, let everybody know where they can find you at.
I am on Mountaineer Paul Talk Football. Sorry. Somebody had something jumped on my screen there. I'm on Mountaineer Paul Talks Football, which is here on YouTube, and also on Twitter at Paul Mountaineer.
Jordan?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, running the Country Roads webcast Twitter there at WVU Country Roads, as you see on the bottom of the screen. And, of course, here on YouTube as well, Country Roads webcast, and then any podcast platform you like as well. Just search for Country Roads webcast, get the long-form episodes there. And then here on YouTube, get more short-form news updates, live stream, things like that.
And for those of you who are listening to this on podcast, Travis's Twitter handle is at Travis Kenobi, at TravisKnobbe. And Jordan's is at WVU Country Roads. Is that right, Jordan?
Yep, that's it. You got it.
All right. And then I'm at Couz 206, at COUZ 206 on Twitter as well. And, of course, Paul's is at Mountaineer Paul. Or I'm sorry, at Paul Mountaineer. It's backwards, at Paul Mountaineer. So, Jordan, who's your favorite guy? Other than Rodney Gallagher? I mean, I think we all are in love with Rodney Gallagher, but other than him, who's your favorite guy in the class that maybe nobody's talking about?
I was about to say, I mean, it's got to be Gallagher for sure. So, but with that, caveat, I definitely think, defensively, I like what we added at the linebacker position. I think Trotter and Cutter are really good, but White, I know we've talked about him a little bit briefly earlier, but what really stood out to me is the live stream National Signing Day show that Jed Drenning and Tony Caridi did, but they were kind of going through and talking about the players as the letter of intents came in. And when it came to Jaheim White, Jed Drenning, who's really, on the nose with his commentary usually and his analysis, actually really surprised me because he compared Jaheim White to Steve Slayton. So that definitely raised my eyebrow. So I think I'm certainly excited to see Jaheim White. So that'd probably have to be my answer, I guess.
Yeah, I watched I was listening to that show as I was traveling today. Not really watching it. I was listening to it, but I was on the road. But I had to miss part of it because I had calls coming in for work and stuff. But I didn't catch that comment. That's that's a lot of expectations to put on a young man, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, he went as far as to say, he said, I don't want to put it on the young man. He prefaced it by saying that, but he said, when he watches him get in the open field, and he said Slayton came in and was 5'10", 180, and I think Jaheim White's like 5'10", 184, so they just looked similar. He said he didn't want to put that on him, but
yeah, I got you. Paul, who's the guy in the class other than Gallagher that you think might be a sleeper?
Well, sleeper, it's a good question. I really like Ben Cutter a lot. I really do. I love his tape, dude. He explodes off the screen to me. As you know, I've watched every single player's tape multiple times. I'm a tape. Well, I love it. And, Couz gets aggravated with me because I'm always asking him, did you see this?
What's his tape? Have you seen his tape? Have you seen his tape?
But I'll tell you what, Ben Cutter has some really impressive tape. He's a sideline player. He's extremely physical, and he's got a great personality, man. Did you see the video he put out with who was that? Was it Sean Reagan?
It was Couz, Jeff Couz.
Jeff Couz. What did I say, Sean Reagan? My brain.
It's all right.
It's not working. It's not working tonight.
Hey, it's been a busy day, man. It's
yeah.
This is what for those of us who do this, what we do, man. It's kind of one of the biggest days of the year, I would say, right? As far as
making sure I was in it all day,
making sure you stay on top of what's going on and the latest news, and hearing all the press conferences. I mean, I do that anyway, but today it was like an all day deal. By the way, guys,
check out.
Cole put a comment in there about that. Paul and I need to plug our show. We have a basketball show called Hoops from the Hills that you can check out on YouTube. We haven't put any content up on it for quite a while, but for about a week now. But we will try to start getting more up now that we've got signing day behind us. And
we just wanted to get this behind us.
Yeah, hopefully we'll start putting more content up there, but especially as we get into Big 12 play.
And I've been real sick, so that's another thing. I've just now got back to doing videos today, actually.
But anyway, Hoops from the Hills, if you guys don't mind, go sub us up over there and check out the content we've got up. If you're a West Virginia basketball fan or even a Big 12 fan, we've got a few things up regarding the Big 12 in general. Big Dan T says, any news on Benton? Yeah, he committed to Houston or signed with Houston, I should say. Big Dan T. And the fan base is in an uproar over it. And I'll be honest, I'm fine with it. I mean, I know he's a good player, but it happens, man. It happens every season. And he had been wishy-washy. He had been wishy-washy for so long
because
anyway.
Of who you lost him to.
What's that? What was that,
I think it's just because of who you lost him to. I think with it being Dane, I think that's why everyone's kind of anything, in my opinion.
It is, but I don't know. I guess I don't harbor as much hate towards Dana as a lot of people do. So, I mean, I don't love the guy necessarily, but he was a good coach for us. Did some good things for us when he was here. So,
well, I made a video about this earlier, this very subject, about the Benton flip. As soon as I seen it happen, it had been announced for 1 minute. I went straight to my phone and made a video, probably out of emotion, but I did. And, I just did a little research beforehand. Saw some of the things that Dana had said. Man, it was, it got me a little bit, he had hinted that he convinced him there was a better place to come, things like that.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm sure Dana, all coaches probably do this, but I'm sure he probably told him, hey, that place sucks, or whatever you would say in that situation. Yeah. I coach there, you can't win there, that kind of thing,
mm-hmm.
So
probably so, but it's part of it, right?
Yeah. Hi, Christina.
I wanted to put that up on the screen for you, man.
Thanks.
Paul's got a fan.
That's right. Baxter Mallory says, you didn't lose it to Dana, you lost it to Houston's money. The guy that is the main contributor to Houston has dollars on dollars on dollars. That's Tillman Fertitta he's referring to.
True.
If he's got that much money, though, I mean Benton would have been a player, right? I'm not demeaning the young man in any way, but if you've got Brinks trucks full of money and you're buying 3-star players, you're doing it wrong, I think.
Well, yeah, you make a great point, but I think Justin Benton's a guy that really was a 4-star player, in my opinion. He left IMG Academy and went to Newton, and they dropped him a star for that. I don't know why. He was a 4-star player his entire career up until the last 2 months of his high school career. They dropped him a star, which rarely happens. I'm not sure why it did. The only thing people can figure out is that he went from IMG, which is like, the top of the top, to Newton High School, which is still a good high school in Georgia, but certainly not IMG Academy.
Yeah, and he's also only 6'1". That's the reason I read on the Texas didn't really want him because he was only 6'1". They loved him and loved his family and all that and thought he was a good fit, but they thought he wasn't big enough to be a defensive lineman at Texas.
Yeah, he's a converted linebacker.
But we're not Texas. So, we're not fooling anybody here. He probably would have worked for us. But at the same time, if the young man was not sure if he wanted to come here, he probably wouldn't have been happy and probably would have transferred out in a year or two anyway. So
I will say this.
I think it's for the best.
I was a little frustrated seeing how many, and this happens all the time, but how many of our fans added him directly. They just tweeted at Justin Benton himself and made some nasty comments to him, and whoever, if anybody's watching has that mentality, just stop it. I mean, get help, like the Michael Jordan meme. Seriously, stop and get some help. Because one, you're tweeting at 18-year-old kids, 17-year-old kids. And two, none of these kids anymore, because of the transfer portal, it works both ways. Maybe they don't sign here this year. Maybe they go to Houston or are convinced to go to Houston. Maybe there's something else behind it that we don't know about, because Houston has different, because they're still G5 as of now, they have different eligibility requirements than we do. Maybe there was something in the paperwork. We don't know that. We're not speculating that it did happen. I'm not saying that. Don't get me wrong. But it could be that he's not happy in Houston in a year and he's on the transfer market and we got a chance at him. But now, if our fans are going crazy against the kid, Mountaineer Nation he doesn't feel welcome here now. It's just silly to do that. One thing to make to make an emotional video that's aggravated at Houston, right? Like, Paul, that's fine.
Yeah.
People who tweeted at the kid himself.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
I don't agree with tweeting at him like that. I don't do that. I don't agree with it.
Oh yeah, I don't think any of us here do. No. And to your point, Travis, because I put out a tweet about it today. One thing I don't think we realize as fans. And Neal made a comment something about, he wasn't talking about Justin Benton, but he made a comment today. I think it may have been in his press conference or maybe an interview. He's done 2 or 3 interviews today too, with different media outlets, and I've watched them all, I think. But he made a comment that he was one of the guys he recruited. They asked him about Rodney Gallagher's visit to Penn State and if that was a problem, and he said no, it wasn't, because of the way they handled it. They told, we were going through that situation with the AD. There was a lot of uncertainty. And they reached out to us and let us know about it ahead of time and told us how they felt and what their plans were. They were open, honest, up front. He said, when kids do that and they're not open and honest about it and they do it behind their back, we basically don't want those kids. He didn't say it that exact way, but he said that's a problem. But Rodney's family didn't do that. So back the way that, how do we know Justin didn't take all these visits after committing to West Virginia? He may have taken all these visits without even letting the coaching staff know about it. So
it's true.
So the staff may have pulled the plug is what I'm getting at. They may have decided he's not truly committed. We don't, we're pulling his offer. And the players never going to tell us if that happened, and neither is Coach Brown, because that's not the right thing to do. Those are supposed to be private situations that don't get shared publicly. We as fans want everything to be out in the public, and it's we probably don't want to know everything.
It wasn't for lack of trying on my part. I asked everybody. Anybody that might tell me, I asked everybody what they thought he was going to do leading up to this. It was no secret. He was my favorite player in the class. I really felt like he was, going to play a Dante Stills type role in our defense, somebody that can move up and down the line. Think of Aaron Donald. He's that type of player as far as athletically.
Right.
It's a loss, but it's not something that can't be overcome at all,
Right. Right.
And and I agree with what Travis said, though. I said it in the video. I can't tell how many players have told me to my face this year, and even through tweets or messages, that fan negativity matters. And the people that don't agree with that, are just want to be negative. In my opinion, they just don't want to let go of that ability to be negative because it affects recruits coming to our school. It does.
Yeah, they can say it doesn't all they want to, but I mean, I've heard them say that it does. Anyway, real quick, guys, I got some housekeeping to take care of real quick. First of all, I want to let everybody know that I am now part of the Pigskin Podcast Network, and I'm thankful for the Pigskin Podcast Network for welcoming Couz's Corner to be part of their podcast family. And as part of that, this show is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. It is my go-to when betting on the NFL this holiday season. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Right now, everyone can earn up to a 100% boost with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, place a same-game parlay, and combine multiple bets like which team will win, player props, and point totals, and more. The more legs you add, the bigger the boost, the bigger your shot to win big. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code TPPN. Place a $5 bet on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code TPPN. Once again, that's TPPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right. So, Jordan, what's your thoughts on the offensive lineman that we got in this class, man?
I think that the one was Johnny Williams. I'm super excited about him just because of that size. I mean, that you were talking about, like you said, 6'7", 315. That's something you can't coach right there. I mean, and the one thing you can say about this coaching staff while they're here has been that they've done a good job building the trenches on both sides of the football. Really, I think we've got good offensive line depth and good defensive line depth to the point where we've really been able to, for the most part, ensure our offensive linemen and kind of develop them for a year or two before we throw them in, minus a few freshmen that we've had stand out, which Thomas Remick was actually a freshman All-American, third straight year. West Virginia's had one. Zach Frazier, 2 Wyatt Milam, the year after that. And then now Thomas Remick. So hopefully some of these offensive linemen, whether it be Nick, Johnny Williams, I don't know if any of them can contribute right away. But if not, then that's kind of a good thing to where you're at the point in your program where you don't have to have another freshman All-American, I guess. But I think that they're guys that have potential to be able to do that if they do have to fill in.
Yeah. What one player we haven't talked about yet is Sean Boyle. And Travis, I want to get your thoughts on him. Have you had a chance to look him up or watch any of his highlights or anything?
Yeah, I've been following sort of as they post the senior games because he really, but prior to this season, he was really an overlooked recruit. In this senior year, he's really turned it on and stepped it up another notch. I think if I remember right, he's towards the lower end of the ratings in this class, or maybe like bottom middle. But I don't think he belongs there based on how he played this year. Mm-hmm. He's a pro-style quarterback, which is going to rub some people the wrong way. Everybody, frankly, including me at times, wants that dual threat, wants more running ability out of the quarterback room. But, Sean can sling it. He's definitely played really well this year. He's grown a bit. I like him. I don't think he's a bad addition to the class. And particularly sort of how quarterback unfolded this year, where we sort of jumped ship on the long-term commitment that we had at quarterback and sort of made a last-minute push for the replacement. I really don't think that's a bad get for the class. And if nothing else, I mean, we're in the era where you can only feasibly keep 2 or 3 quarterbacks on roster every year. If nothing else, he's a pro-style quarterback that's going to give the scout team a different look as he grows up. So,
right,
you got to think about how those types of players help the team too.
Right, and yes, they might be evolving away from a air raid, pass first type of offense now, but that doesn't mean they can't play one in 2 or 3 years when he's older. You know what I mean? because he's not ready now anyway and won't be as a freshman. So they've got a 1, 2, maybe even 3 years before he's going to be the guy. They're expected to be the guy. And, they can always change the offense and scheme it based on their personnel, which is what good coaches do anyway. And I think they can do that. And I think Neal's Neal's been an offensive coach long enough. I think he can do that. So that's what I think. I think, I think they're based on what Garrett Green and Nico Marchiol can do. They're wanting to do more RPO type stuff and be probably a run first offense. But they're not going to be here forever. So, and the offense can evolve as the personnel evolves.
And Baxter's comment that I hear is good. I mean, he does come from that wing T offense. That's what he ran. And Neal specifically mentioned it in his comments today, said that his best football is in front of him.
Right.
And I guess you don't always have to be the most mobile quarterback on the field in order to successfully run an option. It helps if you could take off yourself.
Right.
And for that matter, Nico himself is not really that fast of a quarterback. He's just kind of got that evasiveness and is able to move the pocket around.
He reminds me of Tim Tebow. He really does in his mobility. Very similar. Nico.
That's you said Nico does?
Yeah. Just not, he's not a burner, but he can certainly move. Probably in the 4.6, 4.7 range. I don't know, just guessing. But
yeah, he's a thicker kid. Yeah. He's not going to beat you with his speed, but he's faster than he looks, I think.
Right.
Paul, real quick, man, I want to get to what you mentioned earlier because I think this is interesting, and I almost forgot to do it. We'll touch on Jaheim White real quick, and then we'll go to the questions that you asked him, and then I want to get to some of these comments.
Okay.
But what's your initial thoughts on Jaheim White, man?
I need to watch his tape more. I haven't watched too much of it. I watched, some of the ones they showed on the signing day, and I was really impressed. I've been impressed by his numbers all season that I've been seeing that he was putting up during his high school year this year. I mean, they were outstanding. Some of them were absolutely ridiculous. I mean, 300-plus yard games and things like that, 4 or 5 touchdowns. I mean, so I think he's an absolute talent, maybe one of those diamond in the rough type players. And I think that he's a type of back that West Virginia really doesn't have on the roster, per se, right now, with the type of speedy, quick twitch type that can maybe hit you a home run, take a handoff, go 80 yards type player that West Virginia used to have in the past, early 2000s. We haven't seen him have too much recently. That gets me excited, and that's kind of what excites me about him, really.
Yeah, same. And Paul had an opportunity to communicate with Jaheim White earlier today. Paul, do you have those questions, or do you want me to read them?
You can if you got them right there. I was gonna. Yeah, I'd have to go to another. Okay,
I've got them pulled up. I can do it. But anyway,
I sent you the entire thing. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, you did. Paul had the opportunity to correspond with him on Twitter through DMs today, and ask Jaheim a few questions. And here was Jaheim's answers. First question was, what kind of mindset are you coming to Morgantown with? I'm assuming are the question. You didn't give me the questions. You only gave me the answers.
Oh, okay. I'll ask you the question. It was, what are your expectations for your first year?
It was, I'm coming into Morgantown with a mindset to be the best back I can be. 100% effort in the classroom and on the field. I truly think this class is special. We are all excited to be here and to hit the field.
Number 2 was, what set WVU apart from the rest?
I came to camp in June of 2021. I met Coach Scott, who pulled me aside and showed me how to improve my game. He's a great coach. I knew that day that WVU was home.
Then I said, what is your favorite food, artist, and do you have a message for the fans?
Favorite food, Spanish food. Favorite artist is Rod Wave. And favorite car, this was my favorite one, because it's my favorite car as well, is Dodge Charger. He had me at Dodge Charger. And then message for the fans was, I'm here to play and make a difference. I want to be the best. I'm ready to work for it. So all great answers by this young man. So I'm really excited about, and the message you gave, or the Jed Renning's comments that you talked about earlier, Jordan, that I didn't hear today. That excites me, man, because Jed Renning's been around a while. He's seen a lot of West Virginia football, and I think he probably knows what he's talking about as much, if not more, than anybody else in the program, around the program. So let me go up here and see if I can get to some of these comments. Big Dan T, earlier we were talking about Benton. Big Dan T says, Paul's a big fella. Get out there and replace Benton. LOL. Maybe in his younger days, back in his Marine Corps days. But then he says, I agree with y'all. If the kid don't want to be here, it's not going to work anyway. We do have an issue with rude fans, but most do. Yeah. Every fan base has got them. I mean, Alan says, are there any players in the transfer portal they're going after? There are a lot, actually, Alan. They have offered. Yep. I can't count them all. You can't. It's a lot. Just put it that way.
We can name who visited this past weekend. Some of those players.
Well, and that's actually, there was a question earlier, and I don't know who asked it.
Yeah.
About Neal made a comment today.
I was about to say, I think it was Browns and Beers.
Was it Browns and Beers? I think it was up here.
He was talking about the non-public commits.
Here it is.
That Neal was talking about.
Yep.
Which I don't know both of them, but I think that one of them is maybe that receiver from Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Mardner.
Nick Mardner.
Yep. That's my guess too. And I think the other one could potentially be Amari Gaynor, the linebacker from Florida State. But I'm not confident in that. It's a guess. But because I know both of those guys have visited. That's really the only reason I'm drawing that conclusion. But
Dre McCray, obviously I've been talking with him a lot over the last week. Huh?
He did visit?
Yes, he did. Yes,
okay.
He did. Yes.
I thought he had already committed to somebody.
No, that was Tyrese Chambers.
Okay, that's right. See, I'm telling you, there's so many. That's one reason I haven't done videos on this, because I can't keep up with it, man.
Yeah,
I mean, it's there's like 6, 7, 8 guys a day that they're offering, and
can I say what we found out about what we had to go through compliance and all that stuff? Like the reason you can't reach out, or do you just want to leave it alone?
Oh no, I don't mind. Yeah, I can't reach out because Paul does it. I found out I was supposed to talk to a potential recruit who's now signed, by the way, so I could talk to him now. But and I found out I had a subscriber or a viewer send me a private DM that said, I don't know that if you guys are allowed to be talking to recruits or not. So I said, okay, well, let me look into it. So I actually sent a message to the university, to the communications department, and asked them, sent them an email, and they were extremely nice. They were appreciative that I reached out and asked before just doing it. And I was told that because I am a donor to the MAC, and I literally give a very small amount. Okay, like a very small amount. But if you give $1 to the MAC or to the university, you are considered a booster. And boosters cannot communicate with recruits.
Yeah.
So
wow. I did not know that.
So I backed away from doing that. Now Paul, as my understanding, he's not a booster.
Right.
He's basically just a fan at this point. I mean, he's a fan with a YouTube channel. So
it was weird. Yeah, the head of compliance, David Kruger, called me several times throughout a week, 3 or 4 different times, telling me to wait a week, all kinds of different stuff. They looked through my entire YouTube channel. I mean, it was wild. I didn't know what was going to happen. They weren't sure. I guess they were trying to figure out if me just having a YouTube channel about West Virginia was some form of me being a donor. And I'm sitting there, I was like, I don't know, that's a stretch, But they came back and was like, no, you're good, So we'll just leave it at that. They had some tips for me, I guess, about some of my thumbnails. They didn't like some of my thumbnails, but
yeah, they basically just don't want us. They don't want us doing the recruiting. They want to let the coaches do it.
Right, and I understand that. That's a fair thing to ask. I'm certainly not a recruiter.
Yeah, but at the same time, there is a same thing called freedom of speech and social media. So
yeah,
but the donor part I get, and because that's a slippery slope, and I guess you can't set dollar amounts to it because that just creates more confusion.
yeah.
So now once they sign their letter of intent, I'm allowed to talk to them at that point. So is what I was told. But anyway,
I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't know nothing about it either. So I was like, I hadn't reached out to any recruits, but I'm like, good thing I hadn't. But
yeah,
I don't know if Bradley and Steven donate too, but I'm like, if so, maybe I'll have to do the interview because I hadn't done it either. But yeah, I like you said, a small amount myself. So
yeah, no, it's all good.
He even said season tickets.
If you buy season tickets, you're considered a booster.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, well, yeah, so we couldn't really do it at all then. So good thing you said something.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are other outlets out there who do it anyway, because they probably don't know either. And to be honest, there's a few, but I don't know.
I know one.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to say they don't care. They probably just don't know. But
yeah.
Because I didn't know. Had someone not sent me a message about it, and they actually sent me a screenshot or a link to NCAA rules on it.
Good Lord.
There was another comment on here. Browns and Beers, another good comment. Line depth has been by far one of the better parts of Neal's coaching tenure. The Steele brothers being here certainly has helped on the defensive side, but the offensive side has overall been solid.
Agreed.
Yeah, Baxter Mallory talked about Boyle coming from a wing T offense, which we mentioned. Goes on to say, throw off the option if the running game had too many people in the box and could connect and has a good long ball. And Big Dan T, another comment.
Now I'm not gonna. I don't.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't know enough about Sean Boyle, so I was gonna ask you guys because I know we had Raheem Jeter committed previously, so I was gonna ask you guys, in your opinion, is Sean Boyle an upgrade from what we had in Raheem Jeter, and like in comparison of the two?
Yes, he is.
In my opinion, he is. I wasn't that impressed with Raheem Jeter's highlights, to be honest. I watched him, and my personal opinion, he had a slow delivery, a little bit slower than it should be at the Power 5 level. He had kind of a long wind-up type deal that kind of worried me. He had a strong arm, and his accuracy, from what I had heard, he threw for Graham Harrell over the summer or at some point during the visit, and his accuracy wasn't all that good. So I think that's when they basically pulled his offer, is what I understand. No, they never made that public, but that's what I had heard.
That's another sort of related point to what I talked about earlier, is that we don't, we like when fans say stuff, we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. People who were informed understood that most likely what happened is that Jeter's offer got pulled. Mm-hmm. And if I remember right, Jeter actually had a tweet out there that said, y'all really don't know what's going on, something to that effect, which kind of supported the thought that people had. And mm-hmm. It's not just for me. It's folks like Anderson and Couz. They were pretty certain that's what was happening too, as the offer got pulled.
Right.
Because it happened pretty shortly after he came through for Graham.
Right. Yeah, and that's who I got the information from as well. Travis was Anderson and Casaza. That's what they thought, and and it wasn't long after that he committed to ECU, which is a Group of 5 program. So I think he realized he probably was better off going that route. And who knows? Maybe he has a good career there and ends up getting a shot at the Power 5 level someday. That is the one good thing about the portal. It gives these guys a chance to prove themselves at a lower level and maybe work their way up. Paul, I know you're big on Sean Boyle, so I want to get your thoughts on that topic.
I'm a big fan of his, yeah. Of course, some homerism comes in with that. I think I look at these sometimes I get this tape. I look at it with some gold and blue colored glasses, but I do try to stay objective. Like there are some guys in this class I'm not very excited about. I'm not going to say publicly who, obviously, but I mean, obviously, I'm not a professional talent evaluator, nothing like that. But I have my own opinions, and I'm right a lot on some stuff. So I trust my eye test. And Boyle is like a Will Greer-esque type player. He can move. He's not that he's stationary, even though they label him as a pro style quarterback. That's a little bit off. I feel like he would be what in between a pro style and a dual threat, something in between that. Yeah. He's certainly capable of moving the chains.
Yeah.
He can get you just like Jed Drenning said earlier today. He can get you a first down 3 or 4 times a game with his legs. And certainly he wouldn't play in a wing T offense if you couldn't run at all. Mm-hmm. He's just not going to be a Garrett Green. He's not that explosive. So, and certainly for somebody who has as little, I don't know about the coaching side, but as little experience throwing the football downfield as he does, he does it really well.
Yeah,
better than Raheem Jeter.
I like his
better
ball.
than Raheem Jeter does.
I agree. I mean, that's in my opinion too. I don't watch as much film, so I don't have as much confidence in my eyes. But what I did watch, I thought I was not that impressed with Raheem Jeter's tape or film, whatever you want to call it. But Sean Boyle's, I was pretty impressed.
I think Raheem Jeter was a guy.
Especially considering he wasn't recruited by a lot of Power 5 schools. I thought that was a little surprising.
Yeah. I think they probably thought they could take Raheem Jeter and mold him into something because he had the frame, the athleticism to be a good player. It's not like he can't be a good player, but Sean Boyle is going to take a lot less work to get there. He's just a little bit less raw,
Yeah. Big Dan T says he wants our thoughts on JT going to Rice. So, Travis, I'll let you chime in on that first.
I mean, it's JT said some of the right things today in his interview about it. Sort of offense is moving in a different direction. Sort of asked to leave. I still think that at some point this season, JT got hit too hard or hit too much and had some injury that was undisclosed because he changed. I mean, after sort of game 5, he changed. It's not a bad place for him to close out his career. I think we've got, Garrett Green and Nico both got some good playing time this year and showed that they can help to win games. They may not be as impressive statistically as some of the quarterbacks we've had in the past, but I think they're both winners. They've got winning mentalities. And JT did too. It's just, something changed with him during the season. But one thing I was surprised that he said was he wouldn't be surprised if after his final year he gets into coaching. And he said, if West Virginia would have me back as a coach, I'd love to be there.
Yeah.
So it shows that he doesn't have any bad feelings towards Mountaineer Nation and what happened to him. It's just kind of how it unfolded.
Yeah, and I really respected that the things he said in that interview. I had no ill will towards him anyway, but after hearing that interview or reading that interview, I have even more respect for him because he just seems like a real down to earth person. He's got I think he has his priorities in the right place. And he wants to do things the right way. And, he was a good teammate. I've heard from Georgia fans that he was a great teammate. I've heard from USC fans he was a good teammate. And I think he was a good teammate to Garrett and to Nico. So, matter of fact, I think they became pretty close friends during the whole thing. So, I hope he goes to Rice and balls out and makes it to the NFL. I really do. But but if he doesn't, he's going to have a very successful coaching career, I believe, because that cat is flat out smart. I mean, you can tell in his interviews, he knows the game of football as well as anybody.
Yep.
Yeah, he's super cerebral.
Yeah.
Very different from Garrett and Nico. Not that they're not smart, just that like JT Daniels is always here, and Nico and Garrett play with a lot more energy.
Well, when Neal Brown said that. Neal Brown's coached offensive football for a long time now, for over 20 years, I guess, and or right at 20 years, and and at a lot of Power 5 schools, three to be exact: Texas Tech, Kentucky, and West Virginia. And he said that he said that JT is probably the smartest quarterback he's ever coached. So, that's a pretty big compliment in my opinion.
Yeah, and no doubt that rubbed off on the other quarterbacks in the room.
Oh, I'd say so.
Yeah. I loved hearing that Nico followed him around all year.
Yeah,
that was great.
Mm-hmm.
I'll add something real quick about the JT thing.
Yeah,
I did a video about it earlier. I got to do a little bit of research and found out some of the reasons he went there. So apparently Rice returns on offense every starter next year. They played in the bowl game, even though they were 5-7. They actually nudged us out for a bowl game. We were one of the teams in contention with them, and they actually got a bowl game. But they went to a bowl game. They returned all starters on offense except quarterback and center, so he feels the need. Marcus Tuiasosopo, who is a former Washington quarterback and Oakland Raiders quarterback, is their offensive coordinator.
Okay.
And then Mike Bloomgren is the head coach. And they run a Paul Chris style offense there. Probably more suited to JT, what he can do well. Not exactly what he did at Georgia, but more like that than what he did at West Virginia. Certainly not as wide open. And so I think it's going to be a little bit less wear and tear on him because the offense that Harrell runs is so fast paced, and it asks you to throw the ball so much. I just don't know if his body was ready for that this year. Just as all speculation. But, it was like, first 3 games of the year, he plays so well, right? You've got Pitt, Towson, Kansas. Kansas was the last 300-yard game he had of the season, and also the last 3 touchdown or more game he had in the season. Never again did he cross that threshold, and only twice did he have a 70 Pro Football Focus grade the rest of the way. Every other game after that, he was what Pro Football Focus would deem replaceable in the 69 or under category. So something happened. I'm with Travis on it. Don't know what, but something did.
Cole D wants to know if I'm still donating. I am for now because I'm on this plan where they take so much money out a month. But I don't know that it matters, Cole. The way I read the rules, if I read them correctly, once you donate to the program, you're a donor for life. That's my understanding. Had I known that, I may not have donated. If I had known I was going to be doing this, But it's no big deal. It ain't like I had recruits beating my door down to get on my show. So it's not that big a deal to me, to be honest. I'm just glad I found out before I screwed up. Joey Foster, thanks for hopping on, man. He says, howdy, Travis, Couz, Paul, and Jordan. Let's go Mountaineers.
Hey, Joey.
Hey, Joey.
Always good to hear from Joey.
It is. Cole says JT going to Rice was weird. I'd pay to know if he had any other offers. Truman just thanking us for keeping fans up to speed on what's going on that don't live in the area. Joey again says, I'm excited about the class, but do not like the fact that Dana snuck one away on us. But even with the high 4-star he flipped, he still is in the upper 60s in recruiting, so I'm glad he is not here.
Yeah, Dana had a recruiting plateau or ceiling, and it is definitely lower than Brown's.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. He just happened to hit on 3 of the best players in school history in one class. That was the only class I can remember that he did well with.
Which one are you referring to?
Geno, Stedman, Tabon.
That was actually Bill Stewart's class.
Yep.
Oh, he came in the next year, didn't he?
Yep.
So that wasn't even him.
Yeah.
No, he did have one class that was in like the 30s, I think. during his tenure. I don't remember what year it was, but he typically was in the 50s. And I mean, he had a couple of decent classes, but he wasn't. Neal Brown is kind of staying. Neal Brown's kind of staying in that 30 to 39 range every year, where Dana's, he'd be 59, 35, 45. I mean, he was all over the place.
I just don't know how we dropped from 26 to where we are now. We were 26 the last I looked. For 3 players.
Well, you got to look. The teams around us may have had guys flip to them that they weren't expecting to as well.
Kansas State had a day, that's for sure.
They did. Kansas State's on the come up, man. I'm telling you, Chris Kleiman is. I don't know how long he'll be there. He may end up getting poked away by.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a lot of the rankings based on the size of the class too, and where we only have 17, that might bring us down a little bit too, because some people
you're right,
to 21 or something.
It absolutely.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think they base it off the best 20, right?
Probably so. And by the way, guys, I don't know how many of y'all know this, but Montre Miller, the defensive back that we're getting out of Kent State, the transfer is a 4-star transfer rating. So, yeah. I watched some of his highlights. That cat can flat out ball, man. I'm telling you. I think we got a great player in Montreal.
And so can Polk. The receiver can play.
Yeah, he can.
That was only in 6 games.
And they got him mainly to be kick returner from what I heard from Neal Brown today, because he said that was one thing they addressed already was returner. So I'm guessing specifically that's what he was targeted for.
I think so.
And he still yet caught 30-something balls for 2 touchdowns, 600 yards in 6 games, or 300 yards. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Christopher Miller says time to bring Rich Rod back. Time for him to go. Cole's talking about JT. JT in that article today, Cole said he did not get hurt. He said, I was healthy the entire season. He was proud of that. He said it was the first time in his career he's been healthy for an entire season. And so he feels like he accomplished his main goal, which was to stay healthy for the entire year. He says he was not hurt at any point. So I believe him. I don't think he has a reason to lie about it at this point since he's not with us anymore.
I'm looking at the teams around us, by the way. Sort of how we dropped and going back on memory. UCLA leapfrogged us because they had the 5-star quarterback flip late.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia Tech is 4 ahead of us, but their class is they've got 26 commits.
Good God!
Only 1 4-star and 24 3-star commits on that.
That's
squad.
why. Yeah.
Maryland picked up several at the last minute. Their class is up to 25. So that explains at least the 3-spot drop. Benton helps explain another spot or 2. So Benton frankly was not really a surprise to most. We pretty much all thought he was going to flip.
Yeah, he was not. I mean, he'd been wishy-washy for a few weeks now. I had almost kind of accepted the fact he wasn't coming.
I was surprised he waited this long, frankly.
I don't know why he didn't just decommit.
Yeah.
Honestly. Joey says, I will let everyone know that I spoke with Ren Baker today, and he will be coming on Golden Blue Dude and Mark Rogers after the first of the year for an interview. Hope some of you hosts can join in for that as well. Cool.
Ren seems like a high-energy guy, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. And by the way, speaking of Ren, hold on, Paul's coming back in.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, buddy.
Sorry about that.
Speaking of Ren, he said today, or he didn't say, Neal said today in an interview, Ren actually has talked to some of the recruits himself.
Yeah, that was cool.
I thought that was pretty neat. And so he's been actually actively involved in the recruiting process, which I don't know if Shane Lyons was or not. Maybe he was. But I don't remember that ever being talked about before. But do you guys know anything about that as far as Shane Lyons' involvement in recruiting?
I would be surprised.
Yeah. That's exactly it. I think it was the lack of
Same.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I
seems
think
like
he just
Shane
got-
Lyons delegated a lot of things
Mhm.
from what I've heard, but I think Ren Baker seems to be more hands-on. You've already seen him on several shows. Like you said, talking to recruits, he definitely seems to be a lot more active, I guess I'll say.
Yeah, he reached out to Patty Mack first thing.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
He's definitely. Did you just send me this, Paul?
Yeah, that was my conversation with Montre Miller.
Oh.
I just wanted you to.
Okay.
The reason he came to West Virginia. I thought it was kind of
okay.
cool.
He and Cortez went to the same high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cortez Braham and Montre
I
Miller
didn't
went to.
know
I had actually heard that somewhere. I think.
Yeah, I didn't know that until he told me. So it took me off guard. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but yeah, we got on the Ren Baker topic because Joey apparently got Ren Baker to come on Golden Blue Dude and Mark Rogers' channel at some point after the first of the year, and he's invited us to be a part of the show.
Awesome.
The ones that can. See what other comments Big Dan T's on here. I know it's off topic, but any thoughts on Baylor QB Drones going to Virginia Tech and of course Ali Jennings? Yeah,
that was a big get for them.
But like I think it was Travis just read, the only reason their ranking was higher than ours was because they got 26 guys. So I'm not that impressed with them yet. I do think Brent Pry probably has them headed in the right direction, more so than what Justin Fuente did as far as recruiting goes.
From what I understand, remember how the situation Neal was in when he first got to West Virginia? The numbers were so far down. He was having to recruit so many players. I think that's the same situation Pry might be in. He needs all those numbers. And Neal's, we're more in a situation now where we can get 16, 17 guys and then fill up with portal players because our numbers are pretty healthy, even though we lost a bunch.
I mean, we were at the full 85 scholarship, or at least really close to it, I think. So where when Neal came in, I think we were at way below that, in my understanding.
Yeah, well, in Georgia Tech, or not Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech had a lot of transfers, 2 years in a row, if I recall. I actually keep a spreadsheet of this, so I'm going to pull it up.
Oh, that's awesome. It's weird to see them so down and out, though. Virginia Tech.
Yeah,
it's weird to see them as down as they are.
I love it. To be honest with you.
If we were playing them every year, I wouldn't love it as much because I would obviously want them to be competitive. But now that we're not, I'm good with it.
Rich Rod's not going to be an OC AA. He's he wants to be a head coach, man. And by the way, I don't know if any of y'all had a chance to see his interview with Dale Wolfley. Jordan, did you see his interview with Dale Wolfley? Mm-hmm. If you get a chance,
go. No, I haven't seen it yet.
It was awesome.
Interview. A couple very interesting tidbits in there. First of all, Coach Rod still has it. I mean, I wanted to run through a brick wall just listening to that interview.
Didn't you? I did too.
Oh my God. Talking about the hard edge, But anyway.
I like that.
Number one, Rick Trickett apparently has put more offensive linemen in the NFL than any other line coach in the country. I didn't know that. And two, he said Paul, I don't know if you picked up on this. I'm sure you probably did. He just answering a random question. He somehow came up on the fact that he had opportunities in the offseason to go elsewhere, to take other jobs.
Yeah.
But he was just getting started. He was just getting started there, and then he wanted to come do what they came there to do.
And they've committed to build a really nice facility for him there.
Yeah.
I think he said, what was it? $30 million, $40 million, something like that. A practice facility they've committed to make for his school. They're going D1. So they're moving on up. Yeah. So Rich Rod's got them really heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check that out. I I hadn't listened to it yet, but I know Rich Rod, before he got back into coaching, I was listening to that podcast. He had started doing, it was called the Hard Edge podcast. I believe it was him and his daughter, I think, if I remember right. And I enjoyed that a lot.
It.
So I've always enjoyed listening to his speeches and everything. I still play, the one speech, put a little bit more hair in the helmet, all that. I play that in the podcast intro still, because that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. He actually, he said that now that the season's over, they're going to start the podcast back up after the first of the year. So he just takes a break for the season because he just does. I guess he probably doesn't have the time, I would imagine.
Because I think we've talked about this offline a little bit, and I won't get into the nitty-gritty details, but I do think that if our fan base understood and knew kind of what went on behind the scenes with Rich Rod, stuff that he hasn't even said out loud, I think that they would be a lot less. The ones who are still really angry at him, I think they'd be a lot less so. Rich Rod gets a little more flack for the way he left than he deserves.
I agree with that. I think
and it took me a long time to get there myself.
Me too. It took me listening. Honestly, it took me listening to an interview with him that he did, and I don't remember who. It may have been the one he did with
Pat McAfee.
Well, that was one, and he also did one with Tony Caridi and the guys one time too. But I think it was the one with McAfee where they got into the details, of that. Once I heard his side of the story, it made me rethink it a little bit, because I was like, when you hear both sides, you have a tendency to be a little bit more objective in your thinking. And I'm not saying he did things exactly the right way when he left. He probably could have handled it better. And he's even admitted that. He said he wished he'd had a press conference. He didn't hold a press conference, and that's one thing he wished he would have done. He regrets. And to be honest, I think he even regrets going to Michigan in the first place, because he was not a fit at Michigan, and the boosters at Michigan would never let him do his job.
He'd have been a better fit at Alabama than he would have been at Michigan. Yeah,
and he did. He did mention in that interview that he interviewed with Alabama, which I thought I heard him say he didn't in a previous one. But anyway, he did admit. He did finally admit that. Didn't he have the offer at Alabama, and he said, "I'm going back home." They gave him. They promised him better facilities. They more pay for his coaches and all that. And then a year later, I guess they still hadn't honored it, and he went back to him.
No, I meant Alabama. I thought Alabama actually offered him.
They did, I think.
But yeah, no, we're getting into the nitty gritty of the details. But even the story that Rich Rod told, telling his side of it, he left out some things that happened that were not flattering to the characters involved on the other side of him.
I agree. Yep.
And I respect him for leaving those details out, frankly, because he could have thrown some people under the bus.
Well, if you look deep enough online, you can find that stuff. There were articles written about it at the time that I didn't even find until actually a year or two ago. I think I was doing a video or something about something regarding that, and I was just online looking around and found some old articles that were written right when he left or right after he left about a lot of things, and it really opened my eyes. There was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that was not good for the program. And even the hiring of Bill Stewart was a little bit shaded in controversy, to be honest with you. It was kind of done basically in the middle of the night in a hotel room, is my understanding. And none of the boosters really wanted it. They wanted the boosters, and I'm not saying boosters should be making decisions, but you should probably at least get their opinion on things. I would imagine. And I don't think anybody was happy with the decision to hire Bill. And then God rest Bill Stewart's soul. I don't have anything against Bill Stewart, but this is all just stuff that I've read in various articles. But,
do you think he underachieved with the talent we had, even winning 9 games like he did?
That first year, absolutely, yes. With Pat White and Noel Devine, man, that team
we weren't winning the conference.
Yeah.
I've said this repeatedly.
That's the thing. Like the 9 wins was great, but just where we was at, we should have been conference champions.
Yeah.
The player that I feel the most for of that whole transition era roster is Noel Devine.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because Bill Stewart the way that he and our favorite offensive coordinator of all time used Noel Devine was somewhat criminal. I mean,
Yeah,
that guy could have racked up 2,000 yards.
Oh, that's who we need to hire again, Jeff Mullen.
you would see some riots. Something would happen.
But here's how we win.
There's a reason he's not had another job, really.
We hired Jeff Mullen as offensive coordinator and Joe DeForest as
Joe
defensive
DeForest,
coordinator.
dude, I was getting ready to say
We win the Big 12 in 2023, baby.
No, that's how we win in 2024, because if we do that, everybody's getting fired after 2023.
Yeah, good point. Oh, man. And I still, Bill Stewart probably would have been a better head coach if he'd have hired better. I don't think he hired the right people around him. And I think that was his downfall. Because I'm telling you, your staff will make or break you as a head coach because they're the ones really developing the talent on your team.
Well, he was trying to get, I think, Charlie Taff from the CFL or somebody originally. And if he'd have got him as the offensive coordinator instead of ultimately going with Jeff Mullen, which I think who was Jim Grove kind of screwed him on that because he suggested that he hired Jeff Mullen. But I think if he'd have got who he initially wanted, it would have been completely different because, like you said, Bill Stewart was, he's a program manager. He needs good. He had a great defense coordinator in Castile. The 2010 defense is one of the best in school history. If they had any semblance of an offense, they'd have been an outstanding team.
it probably is the best in school history. I love that 2010 defense. And we had the perfect nose tackle for the 3-3-5 stack and Chris Neal. I loved him at that nose spot, and he was so good there.
Yep.
But we also witnessed the beginnings of one of the worst cornerbacks of all time in Mountaineer history. I'll give you a guess as to who that is.
Quarterback?
Cornerback.
Oh, I don't
Pat Miller.
Pat Miller.
That's the guy.
I already knew where you were going.
That's crazy, man. We all knew who that was, didn't we?
Yep.
Wow. He was like, what was he, 5'8"? He was so little.
Yeah, you know what though? He had several pretty athletic interceptions in his career, but he just couldn't.
He came from Hoover High School, I think, didn't he?
I don't know, honestly.
I'm pretty sure that he was on a school show that used to be on TV or whatever it was.
Joey, I want to address this comment from Joey, and then we'll get off here, guys. It's been almost an hour and a half. This has been fun, man. But anyway, Joey says, Couz, you say the staff makes the head coach look good, but I disagree. If that was true, the Saban would be hurting. His coordinators change every year, but he still has great teams. Good point, Joey, but Nick Saban hires former head coaches who have won games as head coaches to be his coordinators. I mean, his coordinators have been Lane Kiffin. I'm talking offense. Lane Kiffin, Bill O'Brien. I mean, I just threw off the top of my head. I mean, he's had guys that were proven winners. West Virginia has had guys in the past in some
Mike
cases.
Loxley.
Yeah, Loxley. I mean,
well, look how much money they got paid. I mean, Alabama threw money at its assistants like a program should that has that kind of money. And
right.
You can hire the best that way.
Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Look at the guys he's had. Anyone noticed that both the best and worst players in WVU history is named Pat?
Two of the best named Pat. Pat McAfee and Pat White.
Yeah. I'm not going to say Pat Miller's one of the worst, but he's definitely taking his share of crap.
Yeah.
Not really. Pruitt was never head coach, and he was terrible. That's fair, I guess. But I look at Nick Saban as an anomaly, though. I mean, I don't know that you can even put him in a category with any other coaches because he's just so much better than everybody. I mean, he's on another level,
he's got that culture so established there.
I will say this, Joey. Your sample size of Pruitt is smaller than the sample size of the people, the good names that we gave you. And some people just aren't fit to be head coaches, but they're good assistants.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I feel about Dana, to be honest with you, to a degree. But that being said, he won more games at West Virginia than Neal Brown has, so I don't like to throw too much shade at him.
And Krista commented Kirby Smart at Alabama, and that is correct. Kirby Smart wasn't actually Kirby Smart has the distinction of being the first former assistant under Saban to beat Saban.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I thought that was Jimbo, wasn't it?
Jimbo.
Was it Jim? Was Jimbo the first?
Yeah.
Maybe Kirby was the first one to.
Yeah,
He was the first one to beat him in a conference championship game or national championship, I guess it was.
Yeah, that might be right.
He was the first of his.
Speaking of Jimbo,
yeah,
was Jimbo going to be the guy? Before Bill Stewart got hired, was he going to be the guy? Was he the guy most people thought was going to be? I can't remember at that time who the names surrounded the program. That's what the rumor was.
What name did you say, Paul?
Jimbo.
Mm-hmm.
At the time before Bill,
after
Rich Rod and before Bill Stewart.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the time frame was on Jimbo. Yeah, he was.
Well, he was the OC at LSU in 05, right?
It was either then or during Dana's tenure when he was up for a contract thing. But at one time, Jimbo was. I think it was after Jimbo had the job. Basically,
well, the rumor I'd always heard was, if they wanted Jimbo, they could have had him. But Bill Stewart, like you said that night. But what I'd heard always was if they wanted Jimbo, they could have had him then. Supposedly,
when they hired Bill, you mean?
Yeah, when they hired Bill Stewart.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any way he's as successful at West Virginia as he was at Florida State?
Possibly.
I mean, our program had a lot of momentum at the time. I don't know if a lot of people remember this, but towards the end of that year, Rich Rod's final year, we actually had a 5-star cornerback commit at the same time that we were sort of in the final two for the 5-star quarterback that year. There was that Pryor, I think.
Terrell Pryor, yeah.
But we had the 5-star corner commit, and he decommitted the day that Rich Rod left.
That's right.
So we had momentum factoring in on our side at that point in time. So that would have been probably the perfect time to add Jimbo.
Similar to what TCU's going through right now, even though we did it for longer than they have.
Cole says Jimbo wasn't on the radar. Jimbo, I actually know a guy who's personal friends with Jimbo, and I trust this guy because I know him personally. He played college ball with Jimbo. They grew up together. They're buddies. I mean, Jimbo used to give him sideline passes to games, and he showed me pictures, so I know it's true. Jimbo basically had his suitcase packed and was coming to West Virginia, and somebody in the administration decided that they were paying him $1 million too much, or giving him $1 million more for his assistants, or it was $1 million was the number. I think he wanted 5. They would only give him 4. They backtracked, and so he said kick rocks, and he stayed at Florida State.
Go figure that passed along backtracked.
Yep. I think somebody had, I guess the AD at the time, or somebody, or maybe the booster, somebody had told him, we'll get you what you want. He was coming. And then somebody, I don't know if it was a president or the AD once said, nah, we can't do that. So he said, okay, I'm not coming. And he didn't. And then he ended up winning a national championship a few years later. So
it's hard to go back though and expect that people would be good in other places. Just like Rich Rod. I mean, look at the example. He goes to Michigan and he just can't duplicate the success he had here.
Yeah.
He goes to Arizona and he's like completely fallen from grace by that point in time. I mean, sometimes it's just the right situation and the right fit.
And they fought him every step of the way. Rich Rod at Michigan, they wouldn't allow him to do what he wanted to do. They didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't like the offense he ran. It wasn't like any other Big Ten offense. They didn't like the defense he wanted to install. It wasn't like any other Big Ten defense. You know, they were used to smash mouth football in a different way.
Mhm.
And they fought him every step of the way. Everybody.
Yeah, Cole's disagreeing with me on the Jimbo thing, and I'm not saying I know what you're saying about Doc Holiday. I don't know that I don't know that the timeline of the Doc or the Jimbo thing was exactly that same time. I'd have to go back and talk to my friend about it again. I'm thinking his was sometime during the Dana era, maybe. That Jimbo was almost the coach, because there was a time that Dana was basically a lame duck. If you guys remember, he was actually working on an expiring contract, and they were not planning on renewing his contract. He and Shane were disagreeing on the contract, or Oliver, whoever it was. I think it was Shane at the time. And then he ended up winning. He ended up winning 10 games, and they pretty much didn't have a choice but to keep him at that. But they didn't. I don't think deep down they didn't really want to. I don't think. And it may have been then that they were talking to Jimbo. I don't remember the timeline on it. I'd have to go back and talk to my buddy on it again. But at some point, Jimbo Fisher was really close to being our head coach, and it got sidetracked.
Well,
So,
even if it was the same time, it's still like I think you're probably right that they were two different times. But even if it was, it wouldn't be that surprising, because it wouldn't be the first time in our history that we had one group of donors over here that really was pushing for something and they had the money to back it up, and then another group of donors over here that had the money and was willing to back it up on something completely different. I mean, our donors have been split into factions before, and they will be again.
I think they are now, to be perfectly honest with you, from what
the
rumors I'm hearing and stuff I'm seeing on message boards. And I know message board stuff gets blown out of proportion, but believe it or not, there are people on message boards who know what they're talking about. There are people inside. There are insiders on message boards, people.
Yeah, I mean, you got to parse through which ones are.
Yeah,
but
I'm still figuring it out, because I'm still kind of new to message boards. But the people who have been on the message boards a long time will tell you, hey, this guy's legit. Pay attention to what he's saying, right? And then the ones that are not, you know, you'll have the masses going, this guy's an idiot or whatever. So you kind of figure it out over time who the people are. And Mike Kazaza and Chris Anderson will tell you on the 24/7 message board, there are people in here with a capital P, people in this message board.
I'll tell you this. I know for a fact, because I saw it with my own two eyes, that a certain coach was contacted by donors that is tied to West Virginia University.
Yeah.
And I saw it with my own two eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I was actually, you're probably referring to the same situation I am, that, you know, some of the people that are not capital P but get fed information have gotten maybe a bad rep, because they've been kind of used in the way that information got spread. They just have bad luck in that way.
Yep.
But I will tell you, and I told you this, Couz and Paul, I think we had this discussion too around the same time. I was 98% certain that Neal Brown was going to be gone.
Yeah.
Mid-season probably. And and that changed. I mean, obviously that's not the case now, but I didn't hear it from a lowercase p person. I heard it from several capital P persons.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. That's why a lot of fans were so surprised when he didn't. You know, and people think that folks like us, Paul, Travis, me, others, Jordan, whoever, that we never know what we're talking about. West Virginia is a small state, guys. And almost every one of us knows somebody that's connected to the West Virginia program in one way, shape, or form. Okay? So it's not like we can't be we're not always given accurate information. And sometimes you got to sort through it. And I've been wrong on some stuff, but I've also been right on some stuff that I've been given too. So
they don't remember that though.
No, they don't. Normally, you know, normally if one of us four says something,
that's how
we
it goes.
probably are confident about it. Like I said, we're not right 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Because you're only as good as the information you're given. But yeah, it's not that. I don't want to say it's easy to get information, but
it's just
people in the Appalachian Mountains also like to talk. So that
yeah.
So stuff gets leaked a lot.
Go figure that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So stuff does get leaked, believe it or not. Big Dan T says, I have known Doc Holliday for a long time. I would love to have him back in a high-ranking job at WVU.
Even as head coach, thoughts, he said.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind having him on staff. I not as a head coach.
Right. Recruiting coordinator.
Yeah,
maybe.
I agree.
Cole?
And just a little bit too up in age right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Cole, and I didn't mean to say you were wrong either, man. I think we're both right. I think that – and they may have both been close to being hired at the same – you know what I mean? Maybe one didn't get it and the other one almost got it and then he didn't get it. So I think we're both right. Because I have heard the same thing you have, that Doc almost had the job. So the timelines could be mixed up, or they both could have been in the running for the job at the same time. And Bill ended up getting it at the end. So because Group A donors and Group B donors couldn't come to an agreement, so somebody at WVU administration just said, screw it, I'm hiring Bill Stewart. Who knows?
I don't believe, the story at the time was that Pat White was the one who hired Bill Stewart. Pat White certainly advocated for him, but it's kind of absurd to think one player had that much sway over the administration.
You got the ball rolling, didn't it?
Yeah, it definitely didn't hurt. Browns of Beer says your one video on keeping Neal is looking pretty dead on. Yeah, and I received that from somebody that was supposedly in the know, and I trusted them, and they ended up being right. Now, some of it's not come to fruition yet, but it still could. About the sweeping staff changes. Well, actually, speaking of that, Neal alluded to. Did y'all catch what Neal said today?
I actually meant to bring that up earlier. That there were 2 losses on the staff.
Yes, and right now we only know of one.
Well, Tony Washington.
Well, Tony could be the second one.
The other one, I believe.
Yeah, that could be the second one he's referring to. But yeah, good point. But I just didn't know that Graham's actually been finalized. I don't think Tony has he?
Yeah, so far it's just that Tony's
so,
like
yet.
number
Not
one on the list.
What'd you say, Travis?
I said so far, the only solid information that we've had is that Tony Washington is either high on or number one on the list to be the same position, coach the same position at Liberty.
If Neal is saying 2, then it's a safe bet he must have the job then, right?
Maybe, but it could be somebody else too.
It could be.
You just don't know.
There's like 3 coaches on expiring contracts right now. Sean Reagan, Matt Moore.
Let's hope it's not him.
Scott. And I think Chad Scott.
Let's really hope it's not him.
Yeah, I think Matt. My personal opinion, Moore and Scott will probably stay.
Chad Scott deserves a head coaching job at this point. I'm a firm believer in it.
He at least needs an OC job somewhere.
I wouldn't be surprised if actually Chad Scott ends up being the OC next year.
That would be great. That would be great.
Yeah, you should.
That's my opinion is, and this is what, because I was and Anderson have both talked about. They don't know what's going to happen. This is their prediction. They think that he will probably promote Chad Scott or somebody on staff, and it will probably be Chad Scott because of how his group's performed, to OC, but he just won't call the plays, and Neal will go back to calling plays again, and we'll hire another position coach to replace Graham and Washington. So, and Reagan could get let go too, for that matter. I don't know. But they could move Reagan back to quarterback coach if they wanted to.
It's kind of
Reagan's a good recruiter.
Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah.
I just you just think about it, and it's like, everybody knows that Brown, he has to win this year, and if he doesn't, he's not going to be retained. I just can't fathom it, even with the amount of money that's at stake. So hiring proven assistants at this point in time is going to be a challenge.
Agreed.
Yeah.
People know he could be a dead man walking.
True.
Yeah, that's why I think, and too, like Mike and Chris Anderson said, and it's a great point. If you know your job's on the line, which Neil's smart enough to know that, and they may have even told him as much. Are you going to trust somebody else to come in and call your offense, or were you going to do what you've done throughout your entire career, except the one season where you almost lost your job? The one season he didn't call plays, he almost lost his job.
I have a question about that.
So why go back to that again? I mean, that's they're trying to get inside his head. They're not saying that that's the right thing to do. That's just what they're thinking. They think that's what he's thinking, probably, right? Well, my whole career I've been successful calling plays, so I'm going to go back to that. That's probably his mindset.
So we go from 80s to the 60s, right? Offense. That's the jump we made, 20 spots ish. So is JT Daniels worth that, and the receivers having another year of experience? Because what if Neal Brown had the same unit and not Jarrett Doege? Is it reasonable to think that the offense wouldn't jump and the offensive line came back for another year last year, this past season? Is it not reasonable to think that Neal Brown could have done similar, or if not better, with the same pieces? I mean, I just wonder if
with or without Doege.
With having Daniels and without Doege, especially how he played in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I think he could probably done just as good with him, to be honest with you. But we wouldn't have got Daniels without Harrell. And if Doege had stayed, we'd have lost more wide receivers. So it would have
been. Yeah. I'm not questioning that part of it. I'm just saying we're questioning Neal Brown's acumen a little bit. So is it fair? Because all he's ever had at West Virginia is Jarrett Doege. That's it. He's never had another quarterback. So and we saw what he did this year. He struggled to win at Western Kentucky, that job, and then went on to Troy and only played because of injury. I just wonder what he could do with somebody better. I don't know.
And I was actually watching an interview with Neal Brown.
I'm interested.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Well, I was just saying, I'm interested to see Neal Brown, call the plays, because I fully believe he'll probably call the plays as well. Like you said, it's knowing what we know about Neal is attention to detail, knowing he has to win. But I'm anxious to see him call the plays with an actual run game, because really whenever Neal was calling the plays, our rushing offense was pretty much non-existent in his first, 3 seasons. So now that's probably going to be the focus, strength of the offense. Interesting to see what he can do now that he's not, calling the plays with one hand tied behind his back, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point. And today I was watching Neal's interview with the Rivals guy for their National Signing Day coverage. And under the comments, one of his former players commented and said, Neal Brown is an offensive genius. So, I mean, and I then went and invited the guy to come on my show and talk about his experience playing for Neal, because earlier somebody went on another podcast and talked crap about him. So from his Troy days, and I wanted to kind of balance the scales a little bit. But and on National Signing Day of all days, which I kind of struggle to agree with. But anyway, I don't want to get off on that topic.
You can't see the forest for the trees, dude. You can't see the forest for the trees. You just keep.
I'm not on here.
When you start an article quoting an anonymous player that says you're the best media person in the state, that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah.
And he can talk to me directly if he wants to, but I haven't looked at the stats game by game, but one of the things that I thought was a little different about this year than last is time of possession. That I thought that even though the offenses were boring the first 3 years under Neal Brown, averaging 24 points a game basically, that we often controlled the clock. And I wonder if that didn't help the defenses look a little better than maybe they were. Because I still have trouble understanding, even knowing how many transfers we lost, I still have trouble understanding just how the defense fell that far that fast.
Yeah.
It literally went from first to worst, from first to worst. That's what they did. Same D line. Worst to worst. Same D line.
We were different, but the D line was the only thing that was the same. We had changes at linebacker, changes in the secondary.
Sure.
But that being said, when you look, I'm actually going to work on a video on this, and I haven't. It's going to take some work, so I haven't had a chance to put it together yet. When you look at the Pro Football Focus ratings and the performance of the transfers that were brought in versus the ones that left, huge difference. I mean, absolutely huge difference. We basically made a major downgrade in almost every position that left, and that's why we were bad. I mean, that's just there's no other way to put it. They did a really bad job of evaluating the talent or scheming with that talent. One of the two. Both of those are issues that can be fixed.
I don't think it's a scheme.
I don't either.
Same scheme that we've been
evaluation.
Yeah, good point, Travis. I think it's more an evaluation issue, and that's what I thought from the beginning. You know, they told us this was going to be maybe the best defense we've had here, and it was the worst defense they've had here. So,
and maybe those players step into some of those roles this year. Well, you know, maybe it's going to take them a year. You know, because I mean, I did see some of the physical things they were talking about that they could do, whether that was speed or something like that, but mentally they didn't have it. That was obvious.
Yeah.
That's a good point. But what some of the, I mean, what two or three of those guys that came in have already either they're graduating or transferring. So we've got to replace all over again.
So the guys that are returning, you've got Jalen Shelton, who didn't even play. He was a JUCO transfer from Tyler, Texas, right? Then you've got Wesley McCormick. Did he have another year or did he graduate? Do we know?
No, I think he's gone.
He graduated. McCormick's gone. Ajayi's gone. Jasir Cox is gone. Jasir Cox actually was good. He actually played well.
He was amazing
and Charles
towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
So
Outlaw College Football says western part of Virginia will be a powerhouse when they bring back Richmond. Then and only then. Swallow that couch burning pride. Woo!
We're down to, I'm just looking at this, even counting the incoming freshmen, we're at 5 scholarship cornerbacks next year. Assuming no others transfer out, and eight safeties that include Spear. So we're not even we're really thin at those positions still. But you know, we also got
I think defensive backs bad.
Another year of maturity with Andrew Wilson-Lamp and Jacoby Spells may really help with the cornerback position. I still think Jacoby Spells has his best football in front of him for sure. And my favorite recruit from last year's class was Christian Stokes, and he didn't really get much burn last year at safety.
And he's sticking around too. So far he has. I mean, you know, they still have time, obviously, but and Mumu, I think Mumu Ben Wahad's a bigger loss than what we have probably. I don't know that we've given enough credit. I think he could have been a superstar for us.
Well, it looked like he was going to transfer after game 2 based on some public comments that his family was making.
Yeah. They weren't happy. They weren't happy with his lack of playing time and opportunity he was getting in their eyes. And so it's at least that's what I heard anyway.
But I mean, based on the production we were getting at corner after Woods went down, I can't say that I necessarily blame him. At that point, you almost need to try anything out.
Yeah, I agree. I think the whole fan base was wanting that to happen. And if we're going to lose, we might as well lose with the young guys, so they're getting experience. You know,
that's same thing I said with Daggy. Why are we? I mean, Daggy has a ceiling. We're losing with him. Why don't we play Garrett Green, Will Crowder, a little bit more than we are? And same concept.
By the way, Outlaw College Football left that comment about western part of Virginia. Obviously, he's just busting our chops. But everybody go check his channel out. He's got his own YouTube channel. Talks all of college football, talks a lot about Oklahoma and USC, and he loves to talk smack to Lincoln Riley. I'll just leave it at that. But you got to be able to handle abrasiveness and a little bit of and be open-minded. If you are, he'll be entertaining for you. Then he said Joey Foster for governor after that, which I thought was funny. Joey says, I think not. But anyway, guys, listen, it's been an hour and a half, man. Or actually almost 2 hours. Holy cow. This has been fun.
Dang.
We need to do this more often. I appreciate everybody hopping on. One more time, guys. Travis, where you at, man? Where can they find you?
Last Word on College Football is the website I write for. Again, I've been silent for a little while, but I'll be back to it soon enough once I get out of my own head about my objectivity.
Paul, where can they find you at, man?
Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. Have a good time over there. Occasional player comes on. It's good stuff. And then also Twitter at Paul Mountaineer.
Jordan?
Yep. Country Roads webcast here on YouTube and, of course, on all podcast platforms. Actually just released a season stat recap episode today, kind of a Christmas-themed episode. Book ended with a couple Christmas-themed segments, Christmas movie rankings at the beginning, and then our WVU football off-season wish list at the end, and then sandwiched in between going over the season stats for West Virginia and our results from our season predictions, which actually Couz had the best record of everyone that appeared on the season prediction roundtable.
Yeah.
So had to shout you out for that, Couz. But yeah,
Thank
definitely. Of course, at WVU Country Roads on Twitter and Country Roads webcast here on YouTube. But yeah, that's it.
Lord, his head don't fit in the frame anymore now that you did that.
Look at that. Look how big it is. And obviously, you guys know where to find me because you're here, but also don't forget our Hoops from the Hills channel if you want to hear Mountaineer basketball content. And
we'll be doing a lot more with it, I promise.
We've got to, Paul. We've got to, man. We haven't been investing enough. It's just
I was so sick last week, dude. I apologize.
I've been struggling with, it's hard to balance 2 channels plus my job and my family. My daughter's into basketball right now, so that keeps me busy. But we'll get there.
Well, we got a game. We got a game tomorrow.
Yeah,
Stony Brook.
Maybe we can get a recap done in the next couple of days.
Well, then you got a week till the next game, so you got a little while to do that recap.
We do, don't we?
That's something we struggle with too. Is like with the basketball season, it's a whole different timing to the videos than it is football.
Yeah.
It's harder. It's harder to have a schedule with.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read Cole's comment. Oh, Mountaineer Paul talks basketball. That's a T-shirt, Paul. Send my royalties to the Mac on behalf of Couz. LOL.
Will do, man.
Or Country Roads Trust.
Yeah.
Then when the Mac are competing now, did y'all notice that today on the live stream? They were Country Roads Trust was a sponsor, but then Mac had some commercials thrown in too.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
I seen that.
God,
right,
that's the last drama we need is those two going at each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm hoping it's friendly competition. But,
yeah, hopefully.
But anyway, guys, listen, everybody, thank you 3 guys for hopping on here tonight.
It's
been fun.
Thank you.
Always enjoy my time with y'all and enjoy chatting it up about West Virginia Mountaineer football or basketball for that matter. But anyway,
come on and do that too.
Yep. We'll do it again one night. Anyway, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the comments, your participation. It's all been great. Everybody have a good night.
All right. Take care.
Keep Country Roads.
All right.